Christios confa peripsal ama eels. Christios roar grey tough glow aoi ama eels. Christios luciftia od tough glow Bayer peripsal ama eels pujo iel perge de dies apila od pujo miradfat. Let's talk about curses and exorcisms. It can be a very serious matter, actually. And for the most part, at least in my layman's opinion, for the most part, it's a very serious issue that sort of deals with the mental health issues of people. In my book, Accidental Christ, I have sort of a little chapter about Jesus's exorcisms and things, and what a person's mental state has to do with seemingly miraculous and physiological manifestations that are often, I guess, best identified as demon possession. And I'm not saying that it's all. I'm not saying that it's all in the person's head, but like I say, you don't know how big a person's head is. A person's head is everything, too, everything around you. But we can debate about that. Quite a few years ago, under circumstances that I lay out in detail in my book with Llewellyn, The Low Magic, It's All in Your Head. Just have no idea how big your head is. There's a chapter called The Exorcism of Our Lady of Sorrows, which recounts, as well as I could, an exorcism that my brother and I performed at the request of the principal, who was a Mother Superior nun of one of the oldest Catholic girls' schools in the West Coast, anyway. The school had been plagued by truly a series of misfortunes and tragedies. So many, in fact, that it seemed like an inordinate amount of misfortunes, deaths, maimings among people in the school, and students and teachers. So much so that it seemed like it was easy to view this as the school being possessed with them. And I itemize all the things that went wrong in a very short period of time in the book. So I'm not going to go into to that, but it included the tragic deaths of several of the faculty members, things manifesting at the school at night, little nuns, teacher nuns, or one of them anyway, one of the most beloved little teachers just fell dead in front of the class, foaming at the mouth. It was a serious thing, and I don't want to minimize the true terror that had manifested at the school. And for various reasons, including my own apostolic credentials, because according to like Roman Catholic protocol, it takes a bishop to order an exorcism. I was asked to arrange it. Anyway, we went to the school, my brother and I, and sat down. It was late in the afternoon. We sat down in the Mother Superior's office, and she recounted the back-to-back chain of horror stories, and stressed the seriousness. And even during the interview with my brother and me, her phone rang, and it was the mother of the little nun who fell dead in front of the class, informing the Mother Superior that her father, her husband, the nun's father, had just died of a massive heart attack, brokenhearted over the death of his daughter. And so even just sitting in the office, it kept coming, okay? And how confident do you really think all of this is? This is. Anyway, even before we sat down with her, when I knew I was going to go to the big city, I evoked the spirit by Goetic magic means. I describe how I identified it by name and made it sigil and things like that. And then I conjured it formally to visible appearance, and I explained what visible appearance means to me, at home before we went to the school. And I successfully conjured the spirit into a triangle. And then I put the operation on hold. I wrapped, my circle was a silk cord that I had laid out in a circle. I wrapped it around me so I would remain in the circle even as we drove to the school. And the triangle, I broke down with the spirit still inside, packed it up in my briefcase, and along with my other exorcism kits, my bishop's stole and holy water and wand and rosemary to burn, a couple of candles, the usual, and we went off. And my plan was to isolate the spirit into one room of a pretty large school, an old school, full of Catholic statues and martyred saints with arrows in them and shit like that. It was just, you can't make it up. You can't make it up. I don't need to make up a thing, okay? And then when I isolated it into one room of the school, then I would reset up the triangle, reset up my circle, call the spirit back in and have a talk with it. And if that talk didn't work, I would curse it into oblivion. That was my plan. Mark and I were in a pretty somber mood after Sister Martha left. Mark said he would like to systematically go through the building as he had done previously. He had Reiki exercised it about a month previously. When he was finished, he'd wait for me in the faculty lounge. I told him more or less I would follow in his wake, more or less. We conferred for a few minutes in the hallway as we confirmed our respective routes through the school. As the faculty lounge would be our base camp and final meeting place, we agreed we would both start there. I waited in the hallway while Mark did his thing. When he was done, he went on his way, and I re-entered the lounge and prepared myself for the magical marathon to come. I sat down in the most comfortable chair in the room, of course, and put my briefcase on my lap. I closed my eyes and took a couple of deep breaths and repeated my Ganesha banishing invocation mantra and visualization. That's my banishing and invocation of choice now. I reluctantly got up out of my comfy chair, loosened my tie, unbuttoned the collar of my shirt, and fished out the medallion bearing the image of the pentagram and the sigil of slug. Here, I'll show you. Like that. Okay. I identified it by name before I left the house in Costa Mesa, and I describe how I did that. It adds to 93, by the way. It's okay. Or 333. Excuse me. Anyway. I describe it. So I had the pentagram and its sigil. I arranged it so it neatly hung over my tie. Then I rebuttoned my collar, slid the knot of my tie trimly against my throat. I figured I'd better wear a tie to a Catholic school exorcism. Just seemed like the thing to do. For some reason, I felt it vitally important for me to appear as professional as possible. I opened my briefcase and again anointed my head with a tiny dab of oil of a bromelain. Popped on my yarmulke. Okay, I wore a yarmulke head cap. Clipped my juror's badge hexagram to my shirt pocket and put on my bishop's stole. The hexagram you're supposed to pin to your robe. I taped it to the back of my juror's badge that I walked away from jury duty. Pretty funky stuff. Okay, I'm a funky, lazy exorcist, okay? For the first time, I noticed a life-sized and obscenely gruesome crucifix hanging on the wall near the bulletin board. How could I have missed that? I moved closer to have a better look. Surprisingly, my dark cynicism regarding the church and Christianity in general disappeared. And for a moment, I saw the great G in that ghastly symbol. The great G is, I explain that later. It's the supreme singularity God. I looked into the helpless eyes of God and uttered this 33-word oath. I, Tau Lamed, swear by everything I hold sacred that I will not leave this building until I have exorcised the spirit that torments this school and those who labor and study here. I lit a small votive candle and turned off all the other lights in the room. I then removed my wand from its bag and proceeded to banish, purify, consecrate, and seal the room in the following manner. With the wand, I performed the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. With the wand, I performed the lesser banishing ritual of the hexagram. I purified the room by sprinkling the four quarters with holy water and announced, "This room is purified with water." I consecrated the room by approaching the four quarters with the votive candle in hand. With it, I drew an equal-armed cross in the air at each quarter and announced, "This room is consecrated by fire." I suffumigated the room by approaching the four quarters with burning rosemary, which I kept igniting from the flame of the votive candle that I carried from quarter to quarter on the lid of a saucepan, which also served as my ashtray for the incense. I wasn't smoking. Returning to the center of the room, I placed the forefinger of my right hand against my lips and took a deep breath. I then forcefully expelled my breath and swept my hand down in front of me and to the side and back of my body as I shouted, "Apo pantos kakodaimenos." That's Greek for away or behind me, evil spirits. Upon leaving the newly banished, purified, and consecrated area, I sealed the room by dabbing oil of a bromelain on my fingertip and painting a pentagram on the inside of the door and 3 Tau crosses on the outside of the door, one each on the left, right, and upper doorposts. I did this in imitation of the lamb's blood sprinkled on the doorpost to prevent the angel of death from visiting Egyptian homes in the mythological children of Israel. As I drew the Tau crosses, I whispered the words, "In nomine Babylon, Amen." Restriction unto Corona zone. For the next 2.5 hours, I systematically repeated these 7 steps in every room and hallway of the building I could access. The second to the last area I cleared in this manner was Sister Martha's office and its adjoining bathroom. I remember thinking she must truly be a good person. Her office was a sane and calm oasis in an otherwise troubled and disturbed universe. One of the characteristics when my brother and I toured the building when we first arrived was the chaotic feng shui hell of the main office area. There were no straight lines. It truly was feng shui constipation, big time. You entered that room with its cubicles all at different angles and no clear straight lines of vision anyway, and you just wanted to scream and get out of there. It was a demon trap if I ever saw one. Jesus. I wanted to linger in her office, but it was getting late, and I knew that the most difficult part of the evening was still before me. I sealed Sister Martha's office with 3 sweet cinnamon-scented crosses and crossed the hallway to descend into the feng shui hell of the administrative staff area. This place seemed even more terrible than it had a few short hours ago. I performed the full 7-part ritual inside each tiny cubicle, pausing to read each dossier. Sister Martha typed up a dossier including a black and white picture of each of the people that staff members that experienced a misfortune and a summary of the death or the maiming or the misfortune. So there was a dossier in their little outbox thing on each cubicle. So as I as I moved to the next cubicle, I could see that this person developed pancreatic cancer and died within 3 days of diagnosis, or this person was killed with her baby in a burned alive on the 5 freeway. Okay. Pausing to read each dossier. It was very difficult and a little dangerous, wending my way by candlelight through the maze of desks and chairs. After over an hour, the smoke from the burning rosemary became so thick in the enclosed area that I feared I would set off the smoke alarm system. Mercifully, that did not happen. I came at last to the semi-private office of the vice principal. Here, I would resume the evocation that I had put on ice so many hours ago back home. Like the vision of old Mr. Jacobs, the janitor of my youth, who I describe how he would clean the gymnasium floor by sweeping everything into one single pile, all of the rubbish and all of the dirt and all of the clutter into one pile. And then he would sweep that one pile into his dustpan and get rid of it in one swoop. And that's what I did. I figured that's what I did when I created Slug. All of the separate misfortunes I balled up into one master demon that I could name, that I could create a sigil for, that I could have a talk with, or who I could annihilate in one swoop. Not the demon that cut the finger off, not the demon that burned the woman alive, not the demon that caused the nun to fall dead in front of the class. No, I put them all together in one master's demon, just like old Mr. Jacobs. Like old Mr. Jacobs, the janitor in my vision, I'd swept the filth of the entire building into one neat pile. I chose this area, the vice principal's office, for the final showdown for several reasons. First, it had the most room for me to work. Second, all its walls, including the one with the door and windows that opened to the common area, all of them reached from floor to ceiling. It seemed like the nerve center of the problem and the perfect venue to trap a demon. Lastly, I had to confess, I took perverse pleasure in remembering how, in my rambunctious school days, I had confronted several other obnoxious demons in a high school vice principal's office. I spent a lot of time there. Those of my readers who are experienced magicians can imagine my state of mind after spending so many hours of banishing, etc. Even simple ceremonies such as these raise a remarkable amount of energy and require an intense level of concentration just to hold the visualizations in place. I was physically exhausted, yet at the same time psychically energized. Very few times in my magical career had I reached this exalted level of spiritual intoxication. By the time I reached the vice principal's office, the borderline between the material and the magical worlds had essentially vanished. To say I was hallucinating would be an understatement. For hours now, My pentagrams, hexagrams had hung visibly in the air around me, and each time I spat out the words Apo, Pontos, Kakodaimenos, every spirit entity, good or evil, went scurrying off anywhere in the building that had not been cleared and sealed off by the wild-eyed exorcist. The only place left for all that concentrated smutch was to take refuge in the vice principal's office. And the air in that room hung thick with the stinking, demonic chum of the entire building. I slapped Slug's little post-it note sigil and triangle on the desk pad of the vice principal's desk and stepped back a few feet. I checked to make sure I was still wearing my yarmulke, magical juror's badge, and the medallion bearing the pentagram and the demon's sigil. Lastly, I patted the outside of my shirt to assure myself I was safely wrapped in my magical circle. Everything being in order, I aimed my wand at the triangle and commanded, simply as before, Slug, come. And that's where I'm going to leave it today. To me, it was one of the, well, anyway, you can read all about it in Low Magic. It's all in your head. You just have no idea how big your head is, from the good folks at Llewellyn. And anyway, that's it. And what I recited at the very, very first of our, at the opening, was a curse in Enochian. Let the company of heaven curse thee. Let the sun, moon, all the stars curse thee. Let the light and all the holy ones of heaven curse thee, unto the burning flame that liveth forever, and unto torment unspeakable. And you only pull that one out of the bag when it's the only thing left to do. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.